On Thomas's branch line, as he puffs across the river, he always sees people fishing. A long time ago, Thomas had wanted to fish, but they ended up in his boiler, and he quickly realized engines don't go fishing. As he crossed one morning, he noticed that there were far more fishermen than there had ever been. "Why are there so many of them down here?" asked Thomas. "Haven't they anything better to do?" "Exciting news," replied his driver. "Years ago, there was a massive fish people were catching. Everyone gave up after a while, but I heard word it was spotted near our bridge, and apparently it's gotten much bigger. Everybody wants their chance at it." "It's exactly where I'd be right now if we didn't have passengers," chuckled the fireman. "Who cares about a stupid fish? There aren't worth so much trouble." And that's just what they are, trouble. That night, Thomas told Percy and Toby all about it. "I saw them this morning," replied Toby. "They've been down there since before dawn." "Really now? Such a waste of time if you ask me." "Not to them, it's not. I know you've had your problems, but why can't they have their fun?" "Well, I'm not stopping them," Thomas retorted. "I just think it's stupid is all." "It's not stupid," Percy chimed in. "I think it's fascinating." "Of course you would. Anything's fascinating compared to your boring old stone runs. Be a sensible engine now and get your smoke box off the fish." "It is fascinating. Now shut up. Who knows how long that fish has been around? Probably not as long as you or me, but long enough. I'd sure love to see it. You just suck it into your boiler." "Would I now? I do believe I—" "All right, that's enough, you two," interrupted Toby. And without another word, the two engines went unhappily to sleep. The next morning, Percy was taking on water at the station by the river. His fireman filled his tanks and they started off towards the quarry. As they crossed over the bridge, Percy once again saw the men with their lines in the water. "I do wish I could see it when they get it up," he sighed. "But I suppose I'm not meant to have anything to do with it." "I wouldn't pay much notice," soothed his driver. "That old thing has been eluding fishermen for years. I shan't expect they'll ever pull it up." But Percy was determined. But by now, thanks to a certain someone, the word had gotten around about Percy's fishing fascination. For the next few weeks, the big engines at the junction always had a laugh at him. "Thomas tells me about some fish nonsense you're on about," said Gordon one morning. "It's like small engines to obsess over nonsensical things. Us big engines haven't the time for the such. Would be a waste of breath for myself." A few days later, it was Henry's turn. "How's it going to end this time?" he laughed. "Shall you plunge into the river with the fish? Or maybe you'll end up with a few of them in your funnel." But every night, it was Thomas's turn. "I'm trying to warn him, Toby. He can't say I haven't warned him. Engines aren't meant to fish, and he'll learn that the hard way." But Percy had heard that every night, and he was quickly losing patience. One morning, as the engines were preparing for the day's work, Thomas opened his mouth to speak, but Percy quickly interrupted. "I've heard it all," he said. "You're right. I never had a chance, and probably none of the fishermen did either. It was silly, and I shouldn't have gone on like I did." "Well, it's about time," said Thomas, smirking to himself. "Engines can dream, but at least have ones that aren't so foolish." And he puffed away to find Danny and Clarabelle. "You aren't really over it, are you?" muttered Toby once Thomas was gone. "No," replied Percy. "I mean, I know I'll never do it, but why does it bother Thomas?" "Exactly," smiled Toby. "Well, anyhow, he should be done with it now. You keep your dreams, but at least things can go back to normal. Between you and Thomas, I haven't gotten a good sleep in weeks." Later that morning, Percy collected his stone from the quarry and headed towards the harbor. The journey was going nicely. The sun shone and the birds sang. He was just beginning to get his mind off the last few weeks. He puffed happily through the countryside. All was going well, until... "Brakes, driver! Brakes!" he cried as he approached the bridge of the river. Right on the line was a fisherman. His line stretched all the way from the rails to the river, and he was pulling hard. "What's the meaning of..." began the driver, but he was quickly interrupted. "I've snagged it! I've snagged it!" shouted the fisherman as he strained. He was so excited he had failed to notice just where he was. "It? You mean it?" said the fireman in disbelief. "Yeah, it! It's too heavy. I've tried to drag it back, but it's done no good." Percy beamed with excitement. "I think I have an idea. Tie that line around my buffers and I'll do my best. Quickly now." And so that's just what they did. Once the line was tied around him, it took no effort at all. Percy pulled back slowly, further and further. Then, out of the water came the biggest, fattest fish anyone had ever seen. Percy backed a bit more until it was up the bank and secure in the fisherman's net. It was a spectacular sight. Everyone cheered. "Well, we'd love to stay and eat," said the driver, "but we have some stone to deliver. Glad we could help." And feeling more than satisfied with his morning work, Percy puffed happily away towards the harbor. When he arrived back that night, he found a surprise waiting, as did his crew. Next to the shed was a big hot supper of fish and chips. "We wanted to thank you for your help earlier," said the fisherman. "Obviously one fish isn't enough, so we all bundled our daily catches for a bit of a thank you dinner for you." "Well, don't mind if we do," laughed the fireman as he leapt from the cab, and everyone set straight to work at their dinner. Percy looked at Thomas and smiled. Well, he teased. "I suppose engines do go fishing, don't they now?" "Oh, but what would you know about that?" Toby was trying not to laugh as Thomas looked away. He was red in the face and said absolutely nothing. He would think a little better next time, he told Percy, about dreaming.